We're going to move into what hopefully will be an enjoyable and informative segment of the program, because we're going to do something that you've asked that we do in the past, and we listened to you, and we've incorporated it into this year's program. And it's a replay, a mock rehearsal of a congressional visit, meeting with a congressional staffer. And we turned to 5 of our leaders from Florida who will play the role of visiting a congressional office and going through exactly what your talking points speak to. In addition, Seth Lennon of our NAP staff will play the role of a congressional staffer. Seth has previously served as a staffer on the Hill, so he's well equipped to play that role. He's also young enough to play it as well. So I'm going to turn it over to them to become our 4 primetime players. And I will, though, play also the role of a moderator. That is, there may be points during their dialogue with one another where I'll say, stop. And we'll hone in on what had just occurred in that back and forth between them. It won't happen a whole lot. I won't be interrupting them, but I want you to really be sensitive to the dynamic of a successful congressional visit, and hopefully you'll be able to learn and incorporate some of what you learned this morning or this afternoon into tomorrow morning's program. Playing the role of the congressional delegation members are Bobby Bach, A.J. Arborn, Stanley Gold, Kim Mullins, and Ellen Bodie, wherever Ellen is. There she is. Yeah, Ellen. And Seth, why don't you go ahead and take it away and welcome the delegation from Florida.
Good morning, Seth Lennon, Congressman Smith's office. How are you guys today?
Seth, nice to meet you. My name is A.J. Arborn. I'm representing our group from National Association.
Yeah. Just go ahead and sit down, and then the mics will pick you up there.
Tampa, Florida.
Pleasure.
Thank you. Bobby Bach from Tampa, Florida.
Pleasure to meet you, Bobby.
Thank you.
Ellen Bodie from St. Petersburg.
Ellen, welcome.
Kim Mullins, Tampa, Florida.
Hey, Kim. Well, I'd like to welcome all of you to our office today. It's great always to see constituents join us to discuss issues. So what's on your folks' mind today?
Well, Seth, first we want to thank you for taking this time to meet with us. We do appreciate it. I just want to let you know that among the people here, we represent quite a wide variety of the postal work organization,
Right.
Both current employees and retired employees, veterans and non-veterans. We all have a personal stake in this issue. I'm from a very small rural office. We've got some other people here from larger offices. So we just want to make sure we cover some points that we're interested in your boss helping us out with. I don't know if you were able to look at that email I sent you.
Yes, I do. I got it right here. Thank you very much. Really appreciate the information you got out to me.
No problem. I've got a hard copy for that also if you would like to keep that.
Great, thank you. We'll definitely pass it on to my boss. I mean, he's a busy guy, but we'll definitely try to kind of distill the information and kind of help inform him as he considers the issues and the kind of legislation that's going to be coming our way soon. Now, before we begin, I just want to let you guys know that my boss's focus going forward is new Congress. As you know, the leadership at the committee level as well as the overall party leadership has set out our goal to be more fiscally responsible, to cut taxes, to be more sound stewards of our country's money, because we've right now deficits, everything you've been hearing about in the news in regards to how there's a perception that this Congress, that this government is not using the taxpayers' money effectively. So I just want to kind of set that out on the table as we proceed in our discussion.
Well, Seth, part of the Postal Service, we have not been on the budget at all. We're self-sufficient based on money coming in across the counter, stuff coming across the back dock. So we're not being the Postal Service is not being funded by the government, but we're self-sufficient and self-reliant.
Oh, great. I actually didn't know that, so that's actually good to know. So just reading over now, just as kind of a question. In my boss's area, what kind of postal facilities, postal infrastructure exists currently where my boss is currently from?
We have 1,286 jobs in the district and 35,912 in the state of Florida.
Okay.
Okay, the impact is $69,771,889 in wages
Right.
and $7 million in tax dollars generated by the postal employees and the postal service.
Okay, great. All right. Like I said,
Stop. Time. Three things I wanted to point out to you that they've handled. One, nice job in terms of what AJ did in saying we're representing a broad interest, and you point to the fact you've got a retiree in your delegation. Being in Florida, that's especially important, but even more than that, he covered the waterfront with regard to the interests that they represent. Nice job on that. Second, with regard to the way Bobby handled that on the taxpayer money issue. You don't want to say, hey, listen, you're wrong on that. Instead, graciously, diplomatically point out the misunderstanding. And that's what Bobby did on that. Never tell a staffer or a lawmaker, or imply even, that they're stupid. Instead, Bobby brought it to their attention, and Seth, as the staffer, said, yeah, I appreciate you bringing that to my attention. And they do. Third, on that economic data, you're going to have a sheet that's got those numbers. You want to give that sheet and put it in front of the congressional staffer, okay? And not just read from your own, but actually your economic impact data sheet, hand that across the table or across so that they've got those numbers and they'll keep them, okay? Thanks.
Now, Seth, there's in the congressman's district, there's regular post offices in the plant. I work in the plant processing and distribution center where the mail comes in from your local office and gets processed and goes across the country for first-class stamp. So,
okay, great.
Part of the other thing I wanted to bring up is we realize your time is valuable. We want to offer our congratulations to your boss on his victory this last fall. We're very concerned also about helping with the budget process. And we've got three major points we want to cover here that concern the Postal Service coming up and hopefully in future legislation.
All right, great. Well, let's start discussing those in detail. So what's the first issue on your guys' mind?
the first issue is the overfunding of the retiree health benefits of billions of dollars that we've overfunded, and we're looking to get that money back in order to survive. If we didn't have to make these payments, we would be in the red. We would have been in the black.
Okay. Now, Bobby, I guess it's obviously sounds like it's a huge issue facing your organization as well as Postal Service as a whole. My question to you is, why has not my office and why has our committee not been contacted by a professional lobbyist? Because it's obvious that this is an issue deserving national attention by your organization, and therefore your national lobbying arm. Why have they not reached out to us and engaging?
They have. We have a lobbyist, Bruce Moyer, in our national office, in contact with the legislators all year round.
Okay. Well,
And also, additional to Bruce Moyer, our lobbyist, we also have Jay Clackety, the national vice president, who that's part of his job is the legislative, and Lewis Atkins, our president, and the other resident officers that go up to Capitol Hill and go to before hearings to let everybody know about our issues.
okay, great. If possible, I mean, could you possibly get a way to get me in contact with Mr. Moyer and Mr. Kalaki so I can engage in a dialogue that I can share with my boss as he begins to consider policy going forward?
That would not be a problem. We'll get them in contact with you in
great.
order to make your boss more aware of our postal issues.
Great.
The telephone number and their fax
Yeah.
is right on the back of this book.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Stop. That referral, that commitment that we'll ask Moyer to get back in touch with you, that's really important. If you make a commitment, then when you come to the debriefing, let Seth or I know that you've made that commitment. We'll make a note of it. We'll be back in touch. You know, in the past, when you've done that before, we've been in touch. We've kept you in the loop on that. So be willing and able to make a commitment like that. Just make sure that you advise us, Jay or Seth or myself, that we have to get back in touch with that office. That ploy of saying, well, we didn't know about this, that sometimes happens in terms of what's called kill the association, where they don't want to suggest ignorance of the problem. They say, hey, why didn't you get in touch with us on this? We try as much as we can to blanket the Hill with our message. Sometimes not. They're getting blanketed by 1 million messages every day. So sometimes some of that doesn't seep through. It's not as though they're trying to avoid. They simply, for point of information overload, just haven't picked up on it. So don't be discouraged by that, but just make sure on the follow-through that those of us in Washington are clued into what we need to do to help continue to advance your relationship. Thanks.
All right, great, thank you. Like I said, I love the opportunity to speak to your leadership at the national level and begin that conversation. All right, now what else is on the plate for you guys?
Also, we have overfunded the pension benefits also, and we're looking for some relief with that. Currently, there's no bills on the House side for that, but there is on the Senate side.
Okay.
What else, you know, as constituents, we're looking for support from our congressmen.
Absolutely.
For our issues.
Now, just kind of taking my brief scan over the any kind of solution for this issue, we need to be, like we spoke to you earlier about being sound stewards of taxpayer money. Now, in that kind of vein, we need to make sure that if this scores toward adding toward the deficit, it's going to maybe make my boss a little more hesitant to support it, just because of the nature of the fact that we're really trying to cut our deficit, be more sure if we're going to spend money that it's money that needs to be spent and not just adding more bureaucracy. So that's the primary concern we've got on that end.
You know, currently, like I spoke to you earlier, we're currently not on the budget, and we don't intend to be on the budget, but we need perhaps your boss contact the chairman of the subcommittee to come up with a bill on the House side in order to give the Postal Service some relief of our overpayments of both the health and retiree pension funds.
Okay, great.
Stop. Thanks. Bingo. What Bobby just said there, you need to make sure you incorporate. It may not be in the talking points here. Bobby just said, I would like to have we would like to ask your boss to ask the chairman of the subcommittee. Be a little more specific than that. To contact Chairman Ross, okay? We're talking on the House side here, to introduce legislation that deals with this issue. Now, what you could also do if you're talking to Democrats, you could say to contact the ranking minority member, and that would be Mr. Lynch, to introduce legislation. You might ask a Republican to ask the chair, and if you're meeting with a staffer on the Democrat side, ask the Democrat, the top Democrat on the committee. Okay, everybody got that? You have to be specific about the ask, not just help us on the issue. Ask for a specific action, just like Bobby did. Okay?
Okay, well, like I said, we look forward to seeing a bill come our end. Until that happens, our hands are kind of tied at the moment, because until obviously there's something coming out of the committee or the subcommittee, there's nothing my boss can really do at this time. But if we see a bill, we'll definitely research it, look into it, and hopefully provide a stance on it.
And hopefully you'll be able to co-sponsor that bill.
Like I said, I'll discuss it with my boss, and once we do our due diligence through looking through the legislation, we will hopefully be able to join on.
Okay, now one of our last issues this afternoon is currently the 6-day delivery. Our association has written a position paper for Jay Clackey, our vice president, on the need for 6-day delivery, that we shouldn't cut down to 5-day delivery. A lot of people depend on medications coming through the mail. I'm a disabled veteran, constituent, and I depend on my medication. So if they didn't come on Saturday and Monday's a holiday, I'd be 5 days without my medicine from the VA.
Well, Bobby, first off, I appreciate your service to your country, but secondly, the Postmaster General, previously Mr. Potter and now Mr. Donahoe, have come out and said that with the economic conditions, declining volume, that 5-day delivery may be the only way to maintain solvency within the Postal Service. Now, my question to you is, the Postmaster General has been very adamant, very, very public with these statements. Why should I take what I'm being presented right now over what's come out officially from the
Well,
office of the
we believe
Post?
that should be our last resort. We also feel that if you have a 5-day delivery, the other organizations like FedEx and the United Parcel, they'll take advantage of the days we don't deliver the mail. And once you, another organization at a much higher rate. You got to remember that the cost of fuel went up at least 40 cents in the past 4 or 5 months, and all the travel agencies, the airlines, the buses, and the ship lines, they went up 10%, but we cannot raise our rates maybe another year, a year and a half, 2 cents.
Okay.
There is a bill now, House Bill 137. Perhaps the congressman could co-sponsor that bill for us.
Okay, great. I'll definitely take a look at it on Thomas and do a little research, and I'll speak to my boss when he returns from recess, and we will possibly look on the joining on.
Okay, we appreciate that, and also perhaps maybe our congressman would like to come to the plant and do a tour.
I will speak to the scheduler, and if we can get an opening in there. I mean, my boss always enjoys the opportunity of seeing constituents at work and helping further this great nation. And if we can get him out there, we will really work hard to hopefully take a tour of your facility.
As constituents, we need the support of your office, and we need your help. And we appreciate you taking your time today to meet with us.
I really appreciate you guys coming in, discussing your views, discussing your issues. And if we can provide any kind of assistance going forward, we gladly will.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Stay there for a moment. Stay there for a moment. Okay, thank you. Can I ask why we didn't hit issues 2 and 3? Do we want to just contain the examples just to today, or what?
We hit the retirees. We hit the 6-day.
Yeah.
We hit the pre-funding, and the final one was the pensions.
Right, right. On 2 and 3, I would just suggest, and we'll talk a little bit more about issues 2 and 3. They certainly shouldn't take as much of your time, but the importance of issue 2, and we'll talk about this, is the fact that we recognize the Postal Service needs to continue to change. It's not as though they should have the impression that we're trying to keep the Postal Service tomorrow exactly as it's like today. So we want to indicate there needs to be forward movement there. And secondly, the whole matter of deficit reduction, not to attempt to balance the nation's budget on the backs of federal and postal employees. We want to leave that point with them. So I know the first issue definitely is first and foremost. We want to spend the most time on that, but make sure you leave a soundbite about each of those other 2 issues before you leave, okay? The ask at the end about the invite to the facility to visit a plant or visit a post office, extremely important, particularly with new lawmakers, to get them in. And it's more than just making that one initial invitation. You're going to have to repeat that invitation, particularly to the lawmaker himself or herself when you meet with them. It will likely not happen through just the staffer alone, but it's a really important stroke. Inviting them and having that visit occur, some of our branches have done that. They've worked closely with management to make it happen of the facility, and it's ended up as being a win-win in many cases. So kudos for the way you handled that and bringing that up at the end there. Question, Janice?
Is this, okay. I just think it's confusing to people because in the legislative brief, it has issues 1, 2, and 3, and in the talking points, it's 1 through 4, and 1 is actually the points you want the new people to know that we don't take taxpayers' dollars and all that. So I think it's confusing to the people that are listening that they're numbered differently. Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yeah, I understand what you mean.
Okay.
That fact that the first are just some beginning, initial, important points about the Postal Service, those 5 facts. And you can slide through those pretty quickly, and we did here on, these folks did a great job in moving through that. And then you get to issue, the 3 issues as they're numbered there in the issue brief. They have 2, 3, and 4 simply because of the purposes of the outline in the talking points. Yes, Doug.
Doug Phillips, Branch 72, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. It came up during the performance, and I'd like a clarification for all of us. Some may not know this. The difference between a bill, say HR whatever, and a resolution. Could you please explain the difference between a bill and a resolution, please?
Sure. Would one of you folks like to address that?
Yeah.
Seth?
Well, basically, the difference between a bill and a resolution, the bill is actual law. That is actually a piece of legislation that will move through subcommittee, committee, and the full House or Senate for a vote and move on to the president for signature. The resolution, which mainly happens primarily in the House, expresses the will of the body. It's not binding. It will never become law. Its sole purpose is to get members of Congress on record for a certain position. So therefore, the piece of legislation we're talking about right now has been submitted by Sam Graves of Missouri. His objective is to get folks on record, members of Congress from both parties, about 6-day delivery and about the need to keep 6-day delivery. So that is the key difference right there.
And we didn't cover that this morning, and this is a perfect time now to address that. You recall we had the picture up there of Sam Graves at the bottom left-hand corner. He is the guy from Missouri that introduced the 6-day resolution, H-Res, not H-R, H-Res. It's particularly important that you get that right, because it's easy for someone then to go on Thomas and go, H.R., well, it's not there. This is H-Res 137, I believe the number is, right? Mm-hmm. That would put the House on record as urging the Postal Service to retain 6-day delivery. Make sure that your asks include asking them to come on to become a co-sponsor. Mike?
Yosemite. Bruce, I would like to see somewhere in our talking points or resolutions what specific zip codes are in each of my congressman's district. Right now, I can't remember, is it Nunez or is it Costa that's got the plant? You know, they're overlapping in so many areas, and having that, having that information more readily available will help us be more effective in making our presentations.
Okay, thank you. That's the first time that's come up, and it's a good point. We'll try to work on that for next year. I don't think we can get all of you zip code information for congressional districts this year, but that ought to be something that in your relationships back at home that who is the congressman that relates to your post office or your plant or wherever it is that you work. So if you don't already know that, you should. And if you don't already know it and need to know it through us, we can provide that information to you. And we'll keep that in mind for next year in a more documented way. Thanks. Okay, good.
If I can touch on that, there is a way for you to find out what congressman is attached to a certain zip code. On the front page of our website, on the Legislative Center, we have the communication tool that you can communicate with your congressman or your senator. Now, a lot of us may be embarrassed that we don't know who that person is. If you go onto that site and click on and you put your zip code in, or whatever zip code you want to know about, it will bring up the elected officials, your two U.S. senators and the congressperson,